Hey everyone, it's Valkrin. Today I'm going over a Challenger solo queue game, analyzing it, breaking it down for you guys to give you some more insight on the thoughts and know-how of what Challenger players do in solo queue games that I find interesting. In this game especially, there's a lot to this game that I can talk about in terms of what Challenger players do differently than in every other bracket of play. And right off the bat, I'm just going to go through exactly, I'm going to pause it and go through exactly what's going on in terms of the positioning at level 1. Kale is watching this tri-bush. This is an interesting, aggressive play by Kale, but the enemy top laner has teleport, so Kale knows if a level 1 all-in were to happen into this bush, Kale would have the advantage. So it's a very aggressive stance by Kale. It also gives a whole lot of information. And also, Jax decides to start moving towards the enemy red buff to try and invade this. And because Ryze decided to recall and just walk through lane, no one's watching the red. No one will know that the red goes down immediately because there was no sight there was no sight in the area during that point in time. It's really important for your top laner to sort of wait, like in a position where Kale is on purple side, to make sure that no one late invades or something like that and takes the red, or if they do, then you have information on it. But the really important thing to note, and I'll go ahead and resume it, is that this purple side bottom lane is not going to leash. Now you might be saying, Valkrin, why are they leashing? Are they just lazy? No, this is actually a legitimate strategy in Challenger, and it's frequently used. And blue side bottom lane isn't leashing as well. Bottom lane is so vulnerable. It's one of the most vulnerable lanes in the entire game, because if they hit 2 before you bottom lane, they have kill pressure on you. So in Challenger, they value being in lane first over helping their jungler out. And this is not to say that in other brackets of play this is going to work as well, but in Challenger play they understand the value of getting to lane early. So as a result, Kha'Zix only gets help from Nidalee 1 spear. Bottom lane, some aggression is going to come out almost immediately after this minion wave. Really aggressive stance. I think it caught this Twitch off guard. I mean, it was just kind of like the minions dropped. Once the minions are down, you're very vulnerable to skill shots, especially from Morgana. So Twitch ends up getting hit by a binding, a Q from the Lucian. The Karma, for some reason, used exhaust on the Morgana. I think that might have been a misclick. But as a result, they had to end up using Summoner Heal and Exhaust there. Another nice binding. But look how the lane just sort of ended up. It was just kind of like a bunch of traded HP bars. So now it's like, it's a fight for level 2. So what's happening on the other side of the map? Let me go back to talk about what happens mid. Okay, so Jax had taken and invaded this red and is looking to level 2 gank mid on this Nidalee. Nidalee's missing 100 HP, 120 HP. And Kassadin does have Ignite. It's bugging out right here. So what's going to happen is Jax wants to land a Q into a Counter-Strike. But from this moment on, like, the distance that Jax had between him and Nidalee is too great. Like, you have to burn Flash at this point to reach the Nidalee. You're not in Leap Strike range. So this play already went kind of south because Nidalee knew something was up when Kassadin started running past the minions immediately. I mean, it was such a weird play. So as a result, what ends up happening is Jax is going to be forced to have to burn Flash to try and make the play happen. Nidalee makes a nice counter Flash, and as a result, the stun does not hit on Nidalee, and it just trades the summoners. And that might be worth it for Jax if he decides to come back. But what does the Kha'Zix do? And this is kind of surprising. The Kha'Zix then realizes and understands that he was just counter jungle. He knew that his red was down. The Kha'Zix also ran over here and put a trinket ward down. I'm not sure if he, at this point in time, knew that his red buff had been down. He might have guessed it or had a good inclination of it. But as soon as Jax came from this angle and ganked mid, he then knew for sure that without a doubt that his red is down, and also because he put a trinket ward there at the same moment in time. But what the Kha'Zix does that's interesting is he comes mid. He doesn't take, he doesn't like jump on the Kassadin and try to do any damage because he doesn't even have his E yet. He just Q and W. He comes just to push so his mid laner can come and help him. Because once these minions are all gone, there's no responsibility for that mid laner. So the Nidalee is just following the Kha'Zix, just being in the area, being safe, puts a trinket ward down, throws out a spear, and then goes back mid. But this Kassadin is kind of pinned into his turret. He can't help roam on this play. So the Kha'Zix opts to go for this blue over stopping the Jax at his red, thinking that maybe that would hurt Jax a little bit more. Top lane, Kale just shoving in the Ryze top. Another gank by this Jax is about to come in bottom, and let me take away this sight from purple side real quick. So what's happening, let me go back 15 seconds. Bottom lane, they're doing a really good job of chunking this Lucian. So Lucian has about 82 health. This Twitch took W at level 2. This is what you do with Twitch. Instead of taking stealth at level 2, you take your W. So you can throw your W out and use Contaminate to either just range harass or also just to do your all-in situation. And Karma is very healthy, able to basically force Lucian out of lane at this moment in time. Lands a nice Q. But what's going to happen is one side's about to get baited really, really hard. Now look how low Lucian is. Morgana just kind of walks up really close. And whenever this happens, like, okay, keep in mind, guys, if you were winning a trade bottom lane or even top lane or mid lane, and then suddenly, like, you know, after it kind of resets, after both parties kind of back off for a second after the trade damage has gone down, if the enemy laner was losing those trades and then suddenly they just start charging you, they know something that you don't. And 9 times out of 10, by them running at you after losing prior trades or being in a state where they cannot absolutely kill you, it's very obvious that you're getting ganked. And purple side, they haven't put their trinket wards out or anything like that. But when a Morgana kind of runs at you and you have like minions around you protecting you, you should know 9 times out of 10 you're probably getting ganked. So what's going to happen is they now have vision of the Jax, but the Jax had burned Flash mid lane, so he can't without a doubt like ensure that this play happens. So what happens is the Twitch doesn't respond in time. The Twitch probably actually didn't see the gank happening because he was tunneling on the Lucian. And this happens in solo queue even to the best of us, or maybe he just considered that he was dead regardless, but he still had Flash up, and Karma actually got out of the play because she flashed in time, and the Twitch just opted to die, or I think maybe he was trying to trade kills the Lucian and then get the last auto attack off. But this was a situation where I thought it was quite obvious that, and I mean, it's not like a situation that everyone's immune to, right? I mean, you can sometimes just hone into the situation and try to make the best use of your mechanics when you just forget about the actual decision making. And unfortunately, Karma stays, doesn't put a trinket ward out when she should have recalled for sure. She knew for a fact that Lucian and Morgana were still here. She just thought that Lucian was low enough that they wouldn't make an aggressive play. And of course, the Jax had just stayed in the area, you know, and got another kill for free. So going back to what's happening elsewhere, the Kha'Zix finally goes back to his red to finish that last little lizard, so he's going to probably time that. Mid lane, the thing to note is, though, because this is such a hard matchup for Nidalee to win, it's really difficult to gank for this. So even though like the Kha'Zix is in a position where he could be around mid, the Kassadin isn't really afraid. The Kassadin has summoners up. The Nidalee just doesn't have enough damage to be a threat in a jungle gank. So this Kassadin's playing pretty much without fear because he has summoners up, and that's just the style of play that he's going to be able to do knowing the matchup. Top lane, the Ryze has teleport shoved in on the Kayle. What happened bottom lane? Let me go back. So a play is about to happen bottom. Let me go back 30 seconds. So the Karma still isn't back in lane yet, but Twitch is level 2. So let's see what happens. Twitch throws his W out. He E's. Gets a decent bit of harass off for being a level 2 Twitch against level 3 Lucian. He still has Flash. Keep in mind he still has Flash. So he hit 3 and he skills up another point and Contaminate. The Morgana lanes a binding. He Flash. He uses his Contaminate immediately. Very sloppy play by the Lucian. The Lucian should have absolutely just walked all the way back to the turret. I guess maybe he underestimated and forgot that the Twitch still had Flash. But that was a really easy kill for that Twitch to pick up. Even with the Morgana laning the binding. So well played by the Twitch. He made a play happen in a 1v2 scenario while the Karma was still coming back from base. The Jax has been denied both blues, so you got to keep in mind this Kha'Zix opted to trade both, you know, not get a red buff to deny Jax any blues. And I think honestly that trade was pretty decent, because this Jax is definitely going and not jungling nearly as quickly. But, you know, the Jax also got 2 successful ganks off. The Kha'Zix still looking for a good gank to happen. And the Kha'Zix just kind of rotated top, and is looking to make a play happen on this Kayle. This Ryze recognizes that the Kha'Zix is coming into lane gank and is opting to try and bait. So let's go back and like review this sort of in a slower turn of events. So the Ryze definitely knows what's up. Like it wasn't like he didn't see the Kha'Zix. They walked by each other. So the Ryze is forcing Kayle to walk forward. Kayle is in a very aggressive stance, not using minions either way, just understanding the fact that the Kayle has an aggressive summoner over the Ryze. This is a TP Ryze. This is a Kayle with Ignite. The Kayle doesn't have Flash but has Ignite. So what's going to happen is the fight happens, the Ryze opens with the W. This is the moment where the Kayle understands that the Kha'Zix is coming to gank, but tries to trade kills or believes that possibly the Kha'Zix can still lock him down and kill him, so the Kayle starts running to the river. And then tries to trade kills with the Kayle, and I mean with the Ryze, and I think that's what ends up happening, yeah. So the Kayle kind of just decided, hey, my chances of getting away are probably pretty slim, so let me just trade kills right here, because I know with Ignite I can probably secure this kill, and that's what just ends up happening. Then the Kha'Zix is actually pretty happy with just being able to get some free golden experience top lane, because both top laners just kind of suicided, and the winner in this situation was actually the Kha'Zix, because the Kha'Zix didn't get the kill but got an assist and got a lot of free golden experience. It's about 6 minutes and the Kha'Zix is level 5. That's pretty good for not getting a successful gank off. Well, I mean, like not like a solo gank off where you get a kill, but that was a successful gank. Mid lane, this Nidalee is very probably should not be staying in the lane due to the fact that she still doesn't have flash up, and this Kassadin is probably looking to make a play on her pretty soon because he knows the flash is still down, is just zoning her, goes in for some trading, and that's just the understanding this Kassadin has, and the fact that this Nidalee is overstaying her welcome. She should have definitely recalled here. I mean, she was too and she didn't have flash. If she overextended to try to get CS, then the Jax could have popped in there. And what's happening here is the Jax is level 5, doing a very aggressive trinket, or actually is that a very aggressive lantern, 6-minute lantern, and the Kassadin ends up diving the Nidalee mid. And like I said, this Nidalee just overstayed her welcome. She's very chunked, Kassadin with full summoners. This is just, you know, very basic. It's just overstaying your welcome. This happens in every bracket of play. Kassadin didn't even need the burn flash. Very, very aggressive. And the Kassadin was banking on the fact that the Kha'Zix wasn't in the area because he saw Kha'Zix top in the lane. And let's see what's going on bottom lane. It's really hard for me to keep up with all this action, but let me go back even further. Okay, so the lane kind of resets, but the Twitch tries to make a stealth play happen. It looks like they just recalled. The Twitch opted to get a Vamp Scepter. Twitch W's in, get some auto attacks on the Lucian. They're definitely focusing down the Lucian here, and he's saving his Expunge, or his Contaminate now, and the Dot is probably going to get this. Very, very close. Actually, the Dot doesn't get it, and the Twitch just kind of kited around and killed the Morgana. Maybe the Morgana was baiting for the Jax. It's starting to feel like the Morgana was baiting for the Jax to come in here. And it ends up being a 1-for-1 trade overall because of the Jax gank. Top lane, the Kayle is pretty happy just to be able to keep shoving, knowing that the Ryze still, you know, doesn't have a flash up. Lucian's finally deciding to recall here. Mid lane, same thing. Like, if the Kassadin is going uncontested in this matchup, it's only going to get worse for this Nidalee as the game progresses. Nidalee's 6 now, though, with a bigger minion wave, so Kassadin needs to back off and just kind of let the minions dump under the turret and then try to make a play happen once there are fewer minions around. And that's just pretty obvious. I mean, you can't... This early in the game, you can't trade with that many minions around. Jax finds... Or actually, Kha'Zix finds Jax in the jungle. Kha'Zix is doing a little bit of counter jungling. The Kha'Zix evolved his ultimate, or his R first, for the 3 uses of his ult, and had to burn that, but a decent amount of counter jungling that went down. Kha'Zix is now basically understanding that because he counter jungled the enemy Jax's blue and probably timed it, he knows it's back up. but he wants to back off, and this is a smart play by the Kazakhs because the Ryze really couldn't contest this. Like, the Kayle was stronger at this point, and because the Kayle's just level 7, and the Kayle dipped down, and they saw that Kayle dipped down, and they had a numbers advantage. They just simply did. It would have been a 3-on-2 if the Kazakhs had stayed. Nidalee had stayed a little bit too long, so they're going to secure this blue just because generally this Kayle roamed at the right moment down to stop that from happening. Bottom lane, some more trades going down that are really favorable in this Twitch, for this Twitch. Excellent poke by the Karma, leading into a lot of leeway for the Twitch. Twitch is normally a really difficult AD carry to lane with because you basically need to be carried by the support. You need a support that has a lot of pressure. Nidalee just roam bottom and they just brute force this. Twitch popped the ultimate. They have such long range abilities between the three of them, they could just pin the Morgana down under her turret and get a free kill. Here comes the Kassadin roam. They don't have vision of this coming down, so they should kind of recognize that Nidalee has been roaming, and so Kassadin has free reign as well since mid is not being pressured. Jax jumps in, anticipating that the Kassadin would be closer. Kassadin will get one here, but then has to back off. So Jax sort of jumped the gun, thinking that Kassadin would be there sooner. But even if the Kassadin got there sooner, it was a 3-on-2 situation. And the Jax wasn't full on HP, was missing quite a bit of HP. Kassadin still got a kill out of it, but overall it wasn't the best trade. I think the Jax should have waited a little bit longer. That was Jax's first death. Leading up to that point, Jax was doing very well. Kassadin going back mid has a blue buff that's half gone. Top lane, Kayle is just continuously shoving in this Ryze. Very difficult for Ryze to come back in this matchup because Kayle just has superior wave clear. The interesting thing about this Kayle is the Kayle rushed Berserker Greaves, a Dagger, and Amplifying Tome, so he didn't like rush a Stinger into building towards a Nashor's Tooth. Kassadin staying quite a long time after roaming bot, and then is kind of almost punished for it. If the Kazakhs had waited to use his jump for when Kassadin used Rift Walk, that would have been a kill for sure. I'm pretty sure that would have been a kill. Fairly sure. Well, you never know how it would have played out fully because Kassadin still could have juked it with the flash, but pretty confident the Kazakhs could have at least landed one auto attack and a Q off. The Twitch and the Karma are just completely zoning the Lucian and the Morgana now. Let's see what happens. Nidalee gets baited, it seems. Okay, Kassadin is kind of low. Decides not to recall. And then Nidalee just hops forward at the wrong time. Let's see if she had vision of that. Okay, so let's watch her vision. She's just kind of hopping around. I just want to push this really fast because Kassadin's not here. Then she sees it. She leaps forward at the wrong moment in time. So she doesn't have her leap for a couple seconds when she leaps forward like that. And then it was just like, uh-oh. But she did have vision of that very briefly. I think she was just tunneling. So another kill for the Kassadin. And Jax, with Lantern, you do need to have a good balance of farming and ganking if you can to really get the most out of it. To work towards the Feral Flare. It takes 30 stacks now, up from 25. So those 5 extra camps would take a little bit more time as well. Jax coming in here. His gank is sort of seen because they had a Trinket Ward in there for a little bit. The Pink Ward used a little bit too late for Jax to try and sneak in here. And after you clear out a ward like that, you still have to be wary bottom lane or any other lane for the jungler hanging around after you deny vision. And as sort of anticipated, the Kazakhs comes down because he saw that the Jax was in the area, and then he used a sweeper to clear a ward that he sort of guessed was there. And he also just kind of wanted to use that because if there wasn't a ward there, then maybe he would have waited longer. And he's just a smite there. Both junglers very afraid to go top lane at this point. This is the moment in the game where, at 12 minutes or 10 minutes or so, if Dragon is still up, even with how vulnerable top lane is, if one of the junglers went top, that would leave the other jungler with a free Dragon. So both junglers knowing that Dragon is such a high priority at this point in time. There's a pink ward that he walks by, but he sees it. He's going to kill it now. Bottom lane, Jax is trying really hard to make this gank work, but this trinket or this ward saw that gank happen. But the smart thing about this bottom lane, this purple side bottom lane, they understand the vision control they have, and they might know or anticipate that the Jax is still in the area, but that doesn't mean they can't just still play aggressive in a certain amount. Like, they can still sort of push and sort of play aggressive. In top lane, the Kayle dives, the Rise. A good binding hits. The Twitch uses heal, and they both burn summoners. So that was, I think that they anticipated that Jax was still down here, but that was just a really good Morgana binding that started that gank off. So they used Twitch's summoner heal, flash. Karma used flash. It doesn't look like she used exhaust during that play, though. I think she used exhaust a little bit earlier. But now the Morgana recalled. This could leave the possibility of purple side wanting to make a more aggressive play. But Kassadin's roaming down. Kassadin sees them killing that ward. And so they're going to try and make a play on this Kassadin. Kassadin's just going to rift walk. Yeah. Really difficult to catch that Kassadin. The Kha'Zix had used his ultimate to try and sneak the jump on the Kassadin, so just kept chasing with the ultimate. Because he might as well. The game is really even right now, though. It's 8-7. The gold is, you know, within a 1K difference, so it's a very close game, considering it's you know, Challenger solo queue. It's usually really one-sided. Bottom lane, the Twitch has 90 CS, Dilution's 91. Mid lane is where the big CS difference is. Kassadin has about 70 CS on the Nidalee, and that's just to be expected in the matchup, though. But I think the Nidalee made you know, a few mistakes that really cost her a bigger amount of CS difference than it should have been. So the Kha'Zix is invading on this red, and has the timing down. Jax is actually going top lane, so if they see this happen, then they can just immediately kind of respond by doing Dragon. Kha'Zix has Smite up in 5. The Kayle dives the Rise between 2 towers, and the Jax comes top to try and take this turret. So this is the moment in time where you see all these pings going off. This is the decision making that you have to make to try to equalize bad stuff happening. So the Kha'Zix is immediately like, okay, Jax is top lane, they're going to get that turret. We need to make something happen down here. He walks on a ward. He wants to make an aggressive play happen because he knows that there's no way the Jax can get down here in time. Gets a little bit ahead of his bottom lane and gets punished by losing half his HP, but he gets the Morgana ultimate for his ultimate. And then they're just sort of trying to clear out these minions. And not a real, it's a really bad situation for both teams in this situation, I think, because Kassadin's jumping in here on a 3-on-2. Yeah, Kassadin's definitely dead, but so the Twitch dies as well, and the Twitch burned ultimate there. So that I hadn't seen that play up to this moment. I just knew it was going to be bad for both teams because the Kassadin was coming down low in HP targets, but it was still a 3-on-2, and Morgana wasn't in position to help it out, so it ended up just being a 1-for-1 trade. But overall, like at the end of the day, that overall trade was actually in favor of Jax's team. So even though Jax had just run top to like try and push the odds in the favor of his team, and then once Kayle made the dive play happen, the Jax was still in the area to help take the turret down. So they took that second turret, but it left Dragon up. The Kha'Zix tried to make a really aggressive play, but the bottom lane wasn't with him when he was jumping, and they end up don't get any towers out of it, and the overall trade is just a 1-for-1 kill. The goal difference starting to swing heavier in favor of Jax's team. 3K difference now. Meteos pings Dragon, uses his sweeper to clear this out. He's too low to really solo it safely since he knows that Lucian's bottom and his bottom lane's not bottom, so he's just going to back off and start farming. Both junglers kind of taking a break from the heavy pressure that they're applying to make sure that their farm is staying up. Kha'Zix did the white and then recalled. The Jax steps on a trap. I'm not sure if that was him trying to clear it out or him just pathing, and there's a trap there. Traps are annoying. Looks like it seems like he just was pathing in that area and wasn't paying attention. Kassadin able to shove freely against Nidalee. And this Nidalee is kind of low in HP. Another mistake by the Nidalee, being in cat form, leaping forward to try and clear minions, and Kassadin just popped over the wall and got some free trades off on her. And she's definitely going to need to recall here, or she would be in a really bad situation. So Kha'Zix opting to hold mid. Twitch roaming mid, but it's a Kassadin. Kassadin's just going to R away. Yeah. Karma also roaming mid, but this leaves a vulnerability for the enemy bottom lane, the blue side, to get a free turret. So this turret's definitely going to go down. So blue side, surprisingly enough, running into some issues with their roam attempts. They're not getting any decisive victories from when they're trying to make plays happen. Kayle takes the mid tower. So all of purple side's towers have gone down. And now, this is the moment in time where I'll go ahead and pause it. Once all the outer turrets have gone down, blue side should absolutely try to start making plays happen and start warding deeper. And this is typically the moment in time where you see, in competitive play, players switch out their warding totems to sweepers because you have to start playing more aggressive in their jungle because you simply just have to get closer to their inner turrets to get more advantages. But of course, Dragon is up, so that's probably the next closest thing that blue side could do right now. Be much easier to do than to take an inner turret. Lucian is by himself bottom, so kind of a mistake by Morgana roaming mid when their bottom outer turret was still there and Lucian was trying to defend it. So this is just kind of easy pickings. It's just a 2-on-1 situation. Morgana kind of roaming mid, not sure why she roamed mid at this point in time. I guess she was just trying to make plays happen, thinking that they got the outer turret. But yeah, Lucian got picked off there. Now Jax is bottom. The Kassadin picks off a kill on the Rise. Free reign, that's a lot of burst. Chunks Nidalee to half, but she heals to 60%. Kha'Zix bottom pushes the Jax off the turret. And they're going to get a turret from that. But Kassadin is pushing this inhibitor turret. So Kassadin is being a huge threat right now. And Kayle's in the area. He's already sieging this inhibitor turret, and they're trying to dive this Nidalee, but Nidalee uses exhaust. They back off. The Kha'Zix gets the bottom turret, and very, relaxed and cool about this, goes for the dragon, knowing that the Rises were going to revive and Karma is there. So this is just knowing him not panicking and knowing that they have the numbers to defend this. That two-man push on their inhibitor. Plus the inhibitor turret, as long as they don't take it, it'll regen the health anyways. If they had panicked and everyone had recalled, then they probably would not have gotten that outer turret or dragon. So the gold swing came back a little bit in favor of purple side, but they're still bleeding a lot of cash, and they're also, they just had their inhibitor turret sieged on, and it lost some HP, but it'll regen that back up. As long as they don't lose that, they'll still be okay. Morgana kind of looking for some picks, warding in some places, roaming around with the Kassadin. This is a very common place for Morganas to try and make a play happen on this purple side inner turret. You just walk into the fog warp, try to put a binding over the wall. Almost hits the binding on the Nidalee, and they're just continuing to try and siege this. Both teams sort of grouping in the area. The important thing to note is Jax is not close, and Kha'Zix clearing out wards. Purple side is basically 5-man grouped in this this area. Nice binding by the Morgana. Lucian lands a Q, ults, chunks them by a huge amount, but here comes the engage. So what's happening is blue side is not paying attention to the fact that Jax wasn't in the area. Jax is trying to get his blue. Purple side was being sieged on, so it was kind of a miscommunication. There are 3 people, 4 people in this area, but Jax isn't directly in this play. Twitch does a pretty good engage. Has to flash back because of the Kayle ultimate. They end up losing this fight. Wow. So even though Jax was, for the first part of that fight, it was a 4-on-5. The Kayle ultimate showing how and why Kayle is so effective. it completely stopped the Lucian from getting picked off immediately by the Twitch. And the Twitch ended up having to flash defensively just because of the Kayle ultimate, because Lucian could turn around and do full DPS. But at the same moment in time, I mean, the Kayle got super chunked. Purple side can start pushing now because the Kassadin recalled. Kayle was too low. So it's kind of a counterattack that's going down right now. Karma using her Mantra Q. Nice Nidalee Spear. It's worth noting that Karma and Nidalee do have a lot of synergy. If Karma lands her Mantra slow, it's much easier to hit the Nidalee Spear at max range. Twitch is split pushing. What happens here? Let's see how this Kha'Zix makes this play happen. So the Kha'Zix, very aggressive stance by this Kha'Zix. Elder Lizard into Hex Drinker. So he sees two people running at him. It's, I mean, like, look how chunked this Lucian is. This Lucian's missing almost all his HP. Like, you know, he's got like 45% of his max HP, and he's just kind of chilling in this area. Maybe they thought that, well, let me look. Maybe they thought that the Kha'Zix was at the red, but even if Kha'Zix was at the red, this is still a really dangerous play. The Kha'Zix used ultimate, has the reset on his jump, and just escapes. So while I admire the Lucians wanting to prevent the Kha'Zix from taking a free red, the Kha'Zix also basically kills two of them just because they face-checked at the wrong moment in time against the Kha'Zix, and then they still get the red. So smart play by the Kha'Zix using the enemy blue side's red buff against them. It's a pretty good play. Twitch gets the red. Twitch with red, pretty annoying to deal with because of the true damage passive plus the red buff true damage. You become a monster. Twitch is trying to wait. Like, okay, notice what this Twitch did. This Twitch could have just come down here and pushed this out, but Twitch knows that with red buff, with Bork, with Contaminate, he could easily solo this Lucian. And what's going to happen? Lucian's coming down here to farm. So Twitch is going to stealth. Okay, it looks like a nice W over the wall. I'm not sure if... let me go back and see, but I think maybe you could see the animations in the Fog of War. Let's go blue side. So Lucian comes in here. Oh, yeah, he could see it. Interesting. Or is that a bug with this replay? Somehow he could see it in the Fog of War, and he just randomly W's over. But yeah, that was pretty weird. I don't know if that was a bug with the replay, or that was just Twitch's W being seen in the Fog of War. But Twitch's bait was foiled, and then Jax is down here. So now it looks like that this Twitch is might die. Oh, he gets the stealth off, but the pink ward. So it's just going to be a one-for-one trade. Oh, maybe not. Maybe. Excellent. Amazing Rise teleport. Amazing Rise teleport. Oh, that was phenomenal. I'm going to go back and rewatch that. Okay, so... No, I want to go back even further. Let's go back further. So Jax jumps in, lands the stun. This Twitch... Look, okay, this Twitch is like auto-attacking in between moving while applying red buff just to help kite... Because he knows that as long as he gets his stealth off in time, he can get away. The pink ward was thrown, but the Twitch responds immediately by running in the opposite direction. I don't think he even anticipates the Rise teleporting, but he just knows that he probably would die regardless. Pops the ultimate. Red buff being really strong in this situation, applying it again to the Jax, giving him just enough breathing room for the Rise to come in. W's. And the Twitch just walks into the bush, denying vision, knowing that Jax's leap strike was back up, and then Jax just couldn't get it off in time. So that was a really good Rise teleport. Like, Rise paying attention to the minimap right there basically is going to give them this free bottom tower. So they're going to get a tower because of this. And mid lane, what's going on? Let's go back and watch the mid lane play. All vision. So the Kha'Zix just coming in here. The Kayle... in the wrong side of the jungle, even though they have like wards everywhere, they didn't see the Kha'Zix running in here. Kha'Zix uses his ultimate to counter Kayle's ultimate. When Kayle's invulnerable, the Kha'Zix just became untargetable by being stealth, and then just killed the Kayle easily. Okay, so yeah, like I said, because of that play with the Rise teleporting down and the the Twitch remaining calm and collected. They got that they got that inner turret. Sorry if I said outer earlier. They got the inner turret from that one play. That was an amazing play, because not only did it lead to 2 kills, but an inner turret. So the gold has swung in favor of purple side because of these really smart skirmishes. Really smart skirmishes. Rise just kind of walked in there when Kassadin shifted forward to harass the Kazakhs, got some harass down on Kassadin, but this is a really tanky Kassadin. It's worth noting this Kassadin went Rod of Ages into Iceborne Gauntlet. I think that's a pretty popular build now. Just basically you're wanting to be able to go in and use your Nether Blade, because that is a huge source of your damage. And Sheen works pretty well with the new Kassadin as well. Okay. Twitch stealthing in here. They might be trying to catch the Jax, but I think he's going for the Lucian. Yeah, he's just beelining for the Lucian. At this point in time, if Twitch can find Lucian, he will win the 1v1. Karma speeds him up. Pops his ultimate. He uses Contaminate. I'm not actually sure if the Contaminate was in range, but Twitch uses ultimate, and they chunk the Lucian. They get a free tower out of it. Ooh, the tower doesn't go down. The tower has 2 HP. Never mind. So purple side was hoping that the turret would go down to the minions. Morgana stayed around for too long. Okay, so they back off. There you smite here. Morgana is still walking forward. So Morgana's still walking forward, but look at the other positioning. The Kayle backs off to the left. Jax is starting to run down to go to the Wraiths. Morgana's probably just thinking that the Kayle and the Jax are still behind her. The Twitch is like, ooh, this is a free kill. And stealths forward. Lands the W, uses the Bork. Morgana tries desperately to disengage this, or just to try to lock Twitch down long enough for someone to come in here and kill. The Kayle is trying to make a play on the Kazakhs with the help of Kassadin, but the Kazakhs just jumps away. Jax is farming those Wraiths, those juicy Wraiths, and purple side really wanting to finish off this turret. Oh, and the Twitch getting too close. The Kassadin plus the Kayle burst was enough to basically 100 to 0 down the Twitch with the Karma Shield. Some crazy trades back and forth. I'm definitely going to go back through this. Let's watch this at a slower pace. Okay, so what's happening in this play, the Q from the Kayle lands on the Karma. This is basically sealing death for the Karma. Karma, unless she just somehow plays this correctly, she's going to flash. So even though the Q hits her, her speed up allows her to stay alive. So they just switch targets. So I was actually wrong about that. They switch targets. 2 flashes burn, 1 from Rise, 1 from Karma. If Karma didn't flash, she for sure would have died there. Actually thought she died anyways. Let's see. Jax is tanking a few tower hits. Kazakhs is coming back into the play. Lands his W. Yeah, so his W hits on the Jax, so that's a slow. Once that happens, the Kazakhs jumps in, is trying to get the reset, lands the Q while the counter-strike is down. E's back. Lucian Qs the Karma and then auto-attacks the Kazakhs. He flashes, gets 1 more auto-attack off, does not kill the Karma. This is going to be a really nice Q from the Karma. Oh god, that Q. Kazakhs turns around thinking that he's still going to die. It was a really nice Q from the Karma, though, that might have been able to save the Kazakhs if she managed to do that slightly sooner. And the overall trade is purple side almost all die. The Karma barely lived. And now blue side thinks about doing Baron. Someone pinged it, but they realize that they're too low on HP. Jax is dead, their jungler, who also is probably the best at doing it. But they're actually going to try this? Okay, but I think they're too low. I don't think they can do this. Yeah, they for sure can't do this. And they back off. So getting a little bit too ahead of themselves. The Kayle wasn't really healthy enough to help them out either. Morgana had just come back from being dead before that play. And the support Karma coming in here and just clearing out the words using her Oracle Lens. So both teams understanding the weight of Baron right now. The score is very, very close to being even. Blue side just has like a 1k gold difference. Even after purple side being nearly aced, they're still in a really good position right now. And Jax trying to solo Dragon, but this is a very risky time for him to solo Dragon. While he's soloing Dragon, you know, they're gonna get that extra gold, but they're giving up pressure around Baron. Like if blue side was 5-manning in this area, there's no way that purple side could clear out these wards. They just wouldn't feel safe enough. But you know, blue side playing really far back, allowing purple side just to, you know, brute force their way in here to clear out the vision coverage. So even though Jax might be able to get this dragon, it's at the cost of the control of Baron. And they're just clearing out all the wards on Baron. They lost almost everything directly on Baron just for that dragon. So you sometimes have to ask yourself, like, is losing word coverage on Baron worth the gold you get from Dragon? And this is a solo queue game where, you know, if one team gets Baron, it usually spells them winning in most cases. Unless they just have a terrible team comp. Okay. And Kale doing some counter jungling. They just saw the blue respawn. Nearly walking in here. They didn't have vision of the dragon area, so they got that for free. Finally, purple side gets that mid outer turret that had 2 HP. And then Twitch is kind of looking for some plays. They pinged the Twitch as danger because they had that ward and they saw him stealth. He's just kind of running around looking for some picks. He's stealthing. And now he's recalling. Kassadin, this is the smart thing that this Kassadin's doing right now. Nothing important is really happening. That blue side's not immediately threatening anything. And if you have high mobility like that, make sure the side lanes are pushed out. Because now they have to come respond to this, like Twitch is coming to clear this out. This gives them breathing room to do some clearing of the Baron itself. So that Jax soloing the dragon ended up being worth it, because now they can come in here and just clear out these wards anyways. Mid lane, also, these minions are just pounding on this turret. Purple side has to respond to that. That just gives more leeway for them to make stuff happen elsewhere. It's really important to make sure your side lanes are pushed out. Twitch still spending some time. Basically, you can look at it like this: like, time you spend pushing out their side lanes is like an investment, knowing that you're gonna have to force someone to eventually come there and spend time clearing it out, and you can use that to your advantage. Nice Nilly spear there. She's not too fed, but spears are spears, man. They hurt. Kassadin is now clearing up bottom lane because that side lane's pushing in. He wants to make sure he deals with this right away before it becomes a problem on Baron, and also because he has high mobility, he can get to Baron very quickly. So it's kind of a risk, and then because they see the Kassadin bottom, the Kha'Zix decides to make an aggressive play. He has Maul Mortius and also Last Whisper, and they almost kill the Morgana. Morgana had to burn Flash there, and now the gates of Baron have begun to open because Morgana's going to have to recall here. Uh-oh. So Jax jumps aggressively, but his team isn't directly behind him. Morgana's not there. The Kale ultimate goes off on the Jax, but it's still, they have purple side has a numbers advantage. Twitch is just doing a ton of damage with his ultimate. Twitch is half HP, he's trying to lifesteal up. And right here, it's just purple side cleaning up the fight. So not the best engage from the Jax. Maybe he saw an opening, but I don't know if he realized that Morgana was back in the base after getting poked down. And now after the blue side jungler is dead and the enemy AD carry is dead, or blue side AD carry, purple side is led with a very free Baron. There's no way blue side can contest this right now. It's just, it would simply be suicide. So they just try to push out the other lanes. And there it is. Baron goes down at 29-20. No pressure's going down, so they feel safe to push out this lane. Kassadin's actually in the area, though. This might have been risky, but he backs off. They're just kind of sitting in the bush, so looks like Kassadin and Morgana are waiting for someone to come to do this white. This is kind of a desperate play, but it's also a smart play because they know that if things just play out normally, chances are they might lose. Good binding by the Morgana, but unfortunately, it looks like no one was nearby to follow this up. Another good binding. So the Kassadin was able to trade that kill, flash away. It ended up being a 1-for-1 trade. That's actually not too bad because they cleared one Baron buff off of them. 1-for-1 trades are totally worth it, guys, if you're behind. Especially if the enemy team has Baron. If you're, you know, trading 1-for-1, clearing out those Baron buffs, that's actually a pretty decent thing to happen. So that was actually a pretty good play. And now blue side has the advantage because the Twitch is having to push out this massive side lane before it gets to the turret, and all that golden experience is denied / the tower pressure. And blue side trying to shove top now. These minions also stacked up quite nicely. So this is kind of lane management right now. Nothing could immediately happen. Blue side had the sort of advantage, but purple side still has Baron. And they don't really want to push against Baron immediately. They want to look for side pickoffs if they can. Kassadin getting a little bit close, but being able to abuse the Kassadin mobility to get away from that. Going to do the Wolves. Twitch, knowing that he's a superior duelist than Lucian, / most of the other players in the other team, just because of how fed Twitch is right now. So, and the cool thing about Twitch is if you use your stealth right before you recall, you can recall while stealth. Also makes him pretty good split pusher. Mid lane, purple side backing off because they know that Twitch is coming, but they still want to be a threat. Like, they want to be a threat in this area, and they also want to make sure the minions don't move past this area, but they don't want to get so close that blue side could engage. This is kind of smart. This is what you should do when you're grouping, waiting for someone to come to you. You still want to be a threat in the area, but you don't want to be so close that they can engage on you. And purple side is definitely one in the siege right now. You have a Nidalee, you have a Karma, you have a Twitch. You can so easily win just by sieging. Twitch stealthing in. W's, uses his ultimate. They almost kill the... Oh my god, he does kill the Kayle. He flashes and then expunges. So Infinity Edge, Twitch with Last Whisper at 32 minutes. Very, very powerful. And they're just kind of picking them off one by one here. Nidalee Spear hits the Jax. They burn the Summoner heal. Rise, kind of too far forward, but purple side is so far ahead at this point in terms of numbers with Baron buff. The gold difference is not that big, but it's just, at this point, it's team comp difference, and they just outmaneuvered them. And that's the first inhibitor. And they're going to back off here. Yeah, no reason to stay around. They kept an eye on those death timers. They cut it really close, and they knew they needed to get the heck out of there. Karma got picked off. Ooh. So they were cutting it really close there. But the Kassadin gets hit by a spear. Rise uses the W to hold him in place. Kha'Zix uses QW, auto attack. Enough burst to kill a tanky Kassadin. And then they just rotate over and get a free dragon. That's really a big difference between high elo and low elo, is they cut it really close. They're keeping an eye on those death timers. I actually want to go back and watch how close they cut it, because it was really dang close. So at this moment in time, Jax is home guarding in, Lucian's still alive, Kassadin's coming from the base. The Kha'Zix is half HP. They're missing a lot of mana. They used some ultimates here, and Morgana was reviving very, very soon. They jump away. So it's really, a 3v5 right now, but it's just because these three are healthy and probably have their abilities up and stuff like that, they're able to pick off the Karma. Yeah. Alright. Then they pick that dude off, the dragon. Twitch playing pretty fearlessly, knowing that he's a pretty strong duelist. But unfortunately, the Kayle gets the jump on the Twitch. Let's go back and rewatch that. Yeah, Twitch stayed a little bit too long after doing that dragon. I mean, Just got to keep in mind that everyone on the other team was missing. So the Kayle has both summoners. Twitch had summoner heal and used it, but it's not going to really matter. Twitch could have won this for sure. Like, the thing to note is the main reason why Kayle won this was because Kayle just got the jump on the Twitch. Flashed on him immediately, got like 1 or 2 auto attacks off before Twitch could even respond with how much attack speed Kayle has right now. But if that was a straight up fight, I'm pretty sure Twitch would have won it. Kind of greedy of the Twitch staying that long, but then again, a really nice play by the Kayle. Almost died to the poison even after the ultimate. Speed it up a little bit. Because right now, blue side doesn't have a whole lot they can do. No objectives are going to be up anytime soon. No outer turrets left to take this late in the game. So they basically just kind of have to eke farm out where they can, take all the small camps, make sure their side lanes are pushed out, and then just kind of look for plays. Karma sees the Kayle there. Purple side just needs to, you know, the ball's in their court right now. They're trying to clear out Baron in anticipation of it being up within the next minute or so. Twitch making the plays happen, but no, Twitch dies. Even through the Mikhails. Mikhails was used to try to save the Twitch. Twitch is trying to make some pretty aggressive plays. Let's go back and see what happens with the Nidalee. So Cassidy just assassinates Nidalee. But the Twitch gets hit by the jump and counter-strike. But between the Rise and the Kha'Zix, they still have a lot of threat. Nice flash jump right there. Kha'Zix is just really tanky as well. Gasson trying to pick targets off where he can. Kayle doing a lot of damage. So actually, blue side managed to make a pretty decent play right there. Even the odds. But Twitch, unfortunately, initiated that fight. You can sometimes initiate fights, but that was just a bad situation to initiate the fight because the Jax responded very quickly, jumped, counter-striked, and they managed to burst on the Twitch almost immediately. But in a straight-up fight, abusing Nidalee's spears, purple side would still have the advantage here. And the gold difference is still very negligible, like very, very small. 1K, 1.5K in favor of purple side. But this is the moment in time where it really does start coming down to team composition overall. And the early game, you know, whatever happened early game starts becoming less and less important. Use a sweeper just to make sure there were no wards there, also just to clear it out. But now Baron's up. The Baron dance has begun again. Very important to get ward coverage going down. He's just a sweeper, try and clear out the area. They're just trying to do this as quickly as possible before blue side gets here. Blue side is here. Kha'Zix gonna have to jump here. Uh-oh, Kha'Zix gets hit by binding. But blue side backs off. That's actually pretty surprising. They didn't have Kayle. Kayle was pretty far back. So even though they hit the binding on the Kha'Zix, Kha'Zix had the Guardians, had the ultimate. So Twitch wasn't quite there yet. So I guess they just thought that Twitch was closer. So I guess it was a pretty smart play for them to play it safe, even though they landed the binding on the tank, because their Kayle wasn't there and they didn't know where Twitch was, so they didn't have all the information. Now purple side has the advantage right now. They're just looking, you know, if Nidalee lands like one spear, they could just basically go all in. They're just clearing out the wards around Baron. Blue side has some decent ward coverage. Oh god, what happened? So Twitch does another really aggressive play. Let's watch Twitch. Stealthson, he note where he stealthed. He stealthed like over this ridge. I'm pretty sure they'd used sweeper in this area before, but still kind of risky. If they'd seen Twitch use his stealth, then maybe they would back off or maybe even bait this. But Twitch Stealthson sneaks up here, uses his ultimate. Oh my god, the ultimate was hitting not only the Kayle but the Morgana in the back and hits the kills the Morgana, almost kills the Kayle. Flashes. The Rise manages to pick up the kill on the Kayle, and this is just all cleanup. This is late game Twitch for you. Twitch has a hard time laning in most matchups. Karma really helps out Twitch. Really strong support with Twitch. But Twitch definitely carried that last fight. And this should be the last play. Up, even their spear lands. Kassadin decimates the Twitch, but it's a little bit too late. Bam. They're going for the finish. And that's it. GG. Well played by purple side. The blue side probably could have won it before that first Baron, but after that first Baron, it was all downhill for blue side. Even though they were winning for majority of the game, they were sieging that inhibitor turret very, very early into the game. But that one bad engage mid-game when the Morgana got chunked and then the Jack still went in, ended up costing that game.